Welcome to the Massive Change Show. I'm Justin Foster.
And I'm Dr. Virginia Lacayo. In each episode, we have conversation with leaders who are getting in some good trouble by challenging paradigms and shaking the system.
And after each conversation, the episode shifts to the second show, where Virginia and I chat about what we learned from the guest.
If you know of any leaders who will make a great guest, please introduce us.
And of course, if you enjoy the show, please like, share, and leave a review.
Thanks for listening.
On this episode of the Massive Change Show, we are joined by Dr. Kazique J, and explore how belonging is medicine, how connection saves lives, and why isolation is the crisis of our time. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Kazique. After a few attempts to we finally get to actually have a real conversation with you that other people get to listen to. So thank you for your persistence in making this happen.
Oh, I'm really glad to be here, and so thank you so much.
It's funny, I lived in Austin for almost 12 years, and Virginia was there for 5. And then we are conversing from our new home in Mexico City, and we've never met you in person, even though you lived in Austin. So
there are many fascinating people in Austin that we didn't have the chance to meet.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm glad to be here with y'all today. It's fun.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about just your backstory, and there's a reason we chose you or asked you to be on the podcast as someone we admire as a system shaker. But tell us a little bit about you.
Well, these days I'm feeling a little bit of like an outlaw because I am a consultant. Been doing this for in this area over 20 years, and I'm a trained psychologist. So I was a clinician for a number of years, but even during that time, I focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. Really focusing on helping teams and organizations build out their sense of belonging and inclusion within the organization. And so really love the work, but as I mentioned before, being a little bit of an outlaw because I live in Texas, where actually just this past Monday, they made having conversations about DEI illegal within schools. We have a president who right now calls DEI the bane of our existence. And so whether you're trans, person of color, or woman, any number of issues, this is a space that's quite difficult to be in, but I'm here for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
And a couple of questions. One is out of curiosity, where do your names come from? Do you know?
Oh, yes. Kazique is a name that comes from the original inhabitants of the Caribbean. So they had different communities and islands, but they shared a common language. And Kazique means chief or leader. Some parts of Latin America, it's like person who's a leader in the community. Sometimes negatively, it could be overseer because of slavery. And even some other parts of Latin America, it can be seen as a drug lord, a person of respect. So, but they have a common theme: someone who's in charge.
True. And I say that because I coined the name Kazique, the word Kazique, to describe the female leader that I think that we need to go back to.
Okay.
And is that, and it comes from the Caribbean as well.
Yes. So probably right there. Yeah, right. Yeah. Love it. And there is a rum named after Kazique in Costa Rica, so there's that.
A rum? Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so I would like to know more how you came into work. I mean, you were a psychologist and you worked in clinics before, and then you transition, you choose to work with DI that has always been a challenging field. I mean, even more now that it's been banned and attacked in many ways, but it has always been challenging anyway, especially in the corporate sector. So how you made that transition? Why? What inspired you to take the hard way?
Well, I've been Black my whole life, and so I've having to watch my family and friends and community have to tackle really big challenges as far as whether it be experiencing harassment or being mistreated at work, or friends who I knew were being bullied at school. These are things that I saw throughout my life, and I think it was always part of my work. Even I'm a board certified African centered psychologist because I wanted to figure out how do I take this culture that I'm a part of and take the best of it and really apply it in a way that really help people really grow and manifest the best in themselves and their community. And so I feel like DEI is, in many ways, the same kind of thing. How do I get people and connect with one another to really build the kinds of relationships and connections that they otherwise would? Because I'm a firm believer that love is not blind. Love is something that actually allows you to see one another more fully. And that fullness is our race, it's our culture, it's gender, our gender identity. It's hard to love someone if you don't really know them. And so I feel like my work has always been centered in that way to really get people to really know each other in deep and meaningful ways so they can really experience the best they want to experience in life.
I love it. It's true. Love is not blind. It should not be blind. So this is a good transition for the first question, I think, that we ask to all system shakers. So what is that big idea you have that might be stuff or is already doing it, powerful people?
Well, apparently I'm in the business of pissing people off. And so I think when I think about the work that I'm trying to do, I think one of the things I find to be is that there's a lot of people who profit on disconnection, particularly right now. And so those are the people I tend to piss off the most because I'm messing with their money. I'm messing with their ability to profit in a meaningful way by trying to get people to slow down a bit, to really connect in ways that they maybe have had difficulty in the past, and really tap into that, what I've always called is the natural genius that we all have. And so if I can get people to slow down a little bit, to really deal with some of the manufactured disconnection that's being kind of thrown at us and figure out a way to really connect with one another. I think is the beauty that's and there's the opportunity here. But I piss people off all the time because it's like, you're like, you want us to do this? I said, well, I get you're profiting here, but from our disconnection. And they don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, what do you mean? But what I mean by that is keeping us constantly moving and grooving, only taking really small sound bites when it comes to living the life we live. Living it, when you look at entertainment, it's like you see these debates, not so you can have a deeper understanding of maybe someone who you differ from, but really get those sound bites so we're angry at each other. And we're doing this kind of rage scrolling, keeping us online, but actually not solving any of the problems that we're facing.
So if you, it's so profound, it gave me the chills. If you were to, so they're threatened by what you're saying because they're profiting from disconnection. So, what do you think would happen if we were more connected? If we did see each other more fully, what do you think would happen from people that are benefiting from the way things are?
I think what you would see is, I mean, here in the States at least, well, the number one thing that we're dealing with that was actually identified by our Surgeon General was a sense of loneliness. That disconnection, that loneliness, that isolation, partly because of the pandemic, but it was a problem even before the pandemic. And I think you would see people finding the courage to connect with people who they maybe didn't think they could, or even with the people who are in their lives, being able to have a deeper connection with them in a way that they maybe haven't. I think you both are aware that I created a Djembe card deck that was really an attempt to get people to connect in ways they never have in the past. And one of the things that actually got me motivated to continue this work was when I was developing it, where I had this couple, and there was actually a few of them, but the first one really got my attention. They had been married for 30 plus years, and they went through the experience with the Djembe card deck, and they said, you know what? I heard and learned things about you today that I never heard before. And that kind of resonates with me so powerfully because, I mean, there's people we live with and we spend all kinds of time with, and we go through really hard, difficult challenges. And there's just things we never talk about, we never learned about. And I think these kinds of experiences where we get away from the kind of rigmarole of life, the high speed internet and high speed life we live on, and slow down, I think there's the opportunity for healing, right? Because there's a lot of trauma that we're experiencing on the regular, and so we kind of sit just ready for the next thing to happen, trying to protect ourselves, which we should be doing. Don't get me wrong, but there's also time and space for slowing things down so we can actually do some real healing as well.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, people, companies, especially in the government, profit from this connection. But it's also cultural, as you said. I mean, this is a lonely, very highly individualistic society. I mean, that's the difference maybe with Latin America and Africa and of the global South, is this culture of isolation and individualism and looking for myself and maybe my family, but not really connecting with other people. So how do you think, what do you think we need to get done or to change for us to stay more connected, to start connecting more with other people?
Well, I think it's informing people the things that they kind of already know in their gut and in their hearts and their spirits, maybe, is that they do feel that sense of disconnection. They're noticing that they're not, they're having. I mean, I imagine we all have friends who we know who are struggling, and they're begging for someone to connect with them so they don't feel quite as alone as they do. And the way they see it is, maybe they're drinking more than they should, or maybe they're eating more than they should, or maybe they're power walking 20 miles a day, but not really connecting with anyone. And so I think when we actually make those kind of connections with one another, we have a sense of relief. Like, I mean, you probably know it yourself, where you've really got to sit there and talk to someone about something that's really important, something you've been sitting on for a really long time, and you get to really talk with someone about that, or maybe something you weren't aware of, but now you're having this experience of like, wow, that was really kind of weighing on me a lot. But even in the work setting, where I feel more connected to my colleagues and my friends who understand me, who know where I'm coming from, when I feel that sense of connection with them, my ability to solve problems is greater because now I trust you and you trust me, and we can go solve this problem over this tech field that we're in that seems pretty unreasonable and toxic at times.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Wow.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
want
it can be as simple as making a phone call sometimes.
Yeah.
And realizing, as you said, I think the first step is to become aware that we are isolated and how it's affecting us.
Yeah. And so I want to stay on the theme of pissing off powerful people. And I have really a question for both of you. So as the only white dude on this episode, I find the term ally annoying. I find it to be kind of in the genre of the patronizing kind of white progressives. Virginia and I recently saw the movie about the town in New Mexico during the pandemic, and it's a very dark movie, very dark, but also funny. And there's a scene where this white kid is like, he's talking about his whiteness, and we need to give greater voices to black and brown people, and as soon as I'm done talking, we're going to do that. That's like, and he's an ally. That's what, So I have been using the term, and it's in my LinkedIn bio, and I wrote a blurb or an essay about it earlier this week, of activated white dude, because to me, I want to piss off white people in denial of systemic racism and insularism, are the people that are saying, well, you shouldn't talk about race or gender at work. Well, fuck that. Like, those are real things. So we have to have that conversation. So my definition of an activated white dude is someone that is not just an ally, but they've got some skin in the game, pun intended, specifically because that skin is white, and can open doors and can be a platform and can be a power broker or whatnot. That's my intention. But I've never asked anybody else what they thought of it. So I thought right here on this podcast, I would ask you two, what do you think of that term, especially knowing me and how I would use it?
Virginia? What do you think?
Uh, I think you're our guest, so go ahead. I have a statement.
Well, I like the term. The one that has resonated for me over the years is co-conspirator.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll speak for myself as a cisgender black male. I have a lot of women and people from the queer community who I want to be supportive of.
Right.
And so the terminology that seems to resonate the best with as many people as I know is co-conspirator, because we're conspiring together to
Mm-hmm.
do whatever needs to be done, to whether it's flip this table over, or to be kind of sit in the background kind of scheming about because anytime you get two people of oppressed groups together in the room,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, they're over there planning and scheming. I'm saying, yes, we are.
Yeah. Yes.
uh, because
Okay.
it's necessary, because that co-conspiratorship requires relationship. It,
Yeah.
it requires transparency. It requires vulnerability. And so when we're conspiring with a shared goal in good faith, I think that's something that's really powerful.
Mm. Yeah. I've heard that
I
term
have
too. Yeah. And
in my experience, if
Mhm.
I can share that,
Please.
in my experience, we I grew up with the concept of allies, but more in the sense of co-conspirators as well, because my allies and our allies, me as a young woman when I was younger, as a woman, as a Latina, as an immigrant, was with other people that has also something to fight for. And because we are aware that we have different powers, and we are disempowered in different ways, we create those alliances that say, okay, you are in, let's say, the people, you're a group of people of color, or you're in the queer community, and you have discrimination to fight against. I have my own kind of discriminations to fight against. We are together fighting discrimination and fighting violence and fighting exclusion and fighting all of those things that affect everybody. So even though I might have a specific agenda for some things that affect me more, I know that I need to be your ally, and I need to work with you and fight with you for your rights and your conditions, because that's going to affect mine as well. And so
Mm.
that the aliens become as co-conspiracy where is not patronizing. And I think that one thing that bothers me about that concept used by some people, in especially in the north, is the patronizing tone, is saying
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm privileged, I have nothing to fight for, I'm okay with the system, but I'm compassionate enough to be an ally to you, for you, and so I'm going to support you. That's not a true ally, because he has no skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a skin in the game, you have your skin, you have rights, you have conditions that you need to fight for, then the alliance is authentic, because we're fighting together for something that we both care,
Yes.
even if
Right.
we see in it from different perspectives.
Right. And that's exactly why I don't use the term ally, because what I see people, also white people that use the term ally, often are explaining to other white people about someone else's, like the black experience or something. It's like, you don't know what that is. It's like, you don't know. And there's an arrogance to it that bothers me too. And I look at it as in this issue of justice and diversity, equity, inclusion, as a both at a systemic level and at a corporate and institutional level, is I want to be the sapper, which is a military term for the minesweepers. I want to go out in front. I want to blow shit up. I want to open doors, and I want to be able to, because my thing is not to explain the experience of what it's like to be black or a white or a woman or a queer person. I can't explain that experience. What I can do is be a sapper for all the landmines that are out there, and this is why I have shifted, especially this year, to direct confrontation with white people. It's like, this, we are not, there's not, this isn't about politics, this is about humanity. And you've got landmines in you that are biases that are going to harm other people if they don't get blown up, and I want to go poke them. And so that's why I use that term, because, so anyway, yeah, I just like, it just on a whim, I wanted to ask that. So let's go back to
Sure.
Kazique as the guest. Thank you both for answering it. So shifting to system shaker question number 2, because what are some of the challenges you're facing? And I'm really asking this question because this is your profession. You have chosen to stay in the fight as a diversity, equity, inclusion expert. What are some of the challenges that you're facing as an entrepreneur or thought leader, or where you're trying to monetize your expertise? Let's start there.
Well, the biggest challenge is seeing the value of slowing down, right? Because I've already pissed off this other group of people, right? So they're not going to invest what I have to do, right? But there's a whole nother group of people, and I personally think they're the majority, who are interested. They see the negatives, they see the isolation, they see the disconnection. And this is the challenge. The reason why the folks I piss off, why it works, because they are making money, right? They're successful in a way that's meaningful to them. But when they come across someone like me, I'm saying let's slow things down. And so the biggest challenge is finding those folks who are like-minded like me, or maybe even on the fence, who've seen the negative impacts of what's kind of going on, and saying, hey, the approach that he's recommending or people like him are recommending, it partly requires us to slow down. I'm seeing the negative effects of this other approach that's really toxic. And let me figure out how I support the work that he's doing. And I think it's been really difficult because before all this with Trump and other folks over the last few years, a company could decide to do this, and there wasn't really a negative other than maybe kind of council culture kind of stuff, which is not. It's substantive but not substantive. Whereas now they're dealing with a government who comes where the Department of Justice is coming after organizations, whether it's Harvard University, Columbia University, it's schools here in Texas that go after school districts that have a conversation around race or being trans or whatever the topic may be, and they're being pursued actively. And so it's a huge challenge because there's a lot of fear and anxiety about, can we have this conversation? But one of the things I was talking to an executive about this recently, it says we spend a lot of time talking about what we can't do instead of having a conversation about what we can do. So example is in the schools. Okay, they won't let us have this conversation. Excuse me. We can fight this and get ACLU and others to fight this in the courts. Great. Until that changes, maybe we'll work with PTA. Maybe we work with the churches. Maybe we work with other civic or aligned organizations to collaborate with these students outside of the school system and have these conversations. So is it work the way it did before? No, but that's what we did during the civil rights movement. We got people sitting in the women's suffrage. We got people together, not in the institutions that we are trying to play in today, but we did it on our own time, sometimes in back alleys and in secret locations, to have the kind of training and conversations that are necessary that we have. And that requires us to slow down and make time for these kinds of conversations. And so it's that kind of, I think there's a lot of disappointment and kind of frustration that we can't do this. But I want to focus on what we can do and where we continue to fight these issues instead of just what the government's trying to tell us what we can't do.
Yeah,
That's
love it.
very
And it's true.
interesting.
It's about creativity. There's so many things that we can do at the individual level and group level, collective level, and it's just about thinking outside the traditional ways.
Right. Well, I'll give you an example. I'm working with a colleague of mine. We're putting on an event called Plates and Perspectives in DC, and we're actually wanting to put another one here in Austin. And what we're trying to do is basically bring people from all walks of life. We're trying to take advantage of the Congressional Black Caucus Convention that's happening, and basically use that opportunity to bring people together, have some really good food, because that's the idea, bring food together, and then go through the experience with the Djembe card deck. Because people are literally dying for these kind of intimate, curated experiences, so they don't have to think about what they need to say when they show up, but they get to show up, have good food, meet some interesting people, and have a really quality, meaningful conversation. That's what people are wanting. And so creating those kinds of events is what's at least my attempt to try to create that outside the box approach to solve some of the challenges.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm 50, almost 55. I was born in 1970. So, didn't experience the era of the '60s, and but I would love to get your reaction just related to kind of the challenge of current circumstances, and I love that shift from what can you do versus what can't you do. Is that uh, public sentiment as a whole seems to be on the side of diversity, equity, inclusion, both as a philosophy and as a model. There's all the list of businesses that told Trump to fuck off, essentially, including several companies that had, like Marriott, that had very large contracts with the government that lost those contracts. And so the difference is now it seems that the public sentiment is on the side of doing what's right, even if sometimes it's a bit tepid, but it's there. It's that the people in power are using that power in a sadly in a very effective way, erasing history. The Smithsonian thing is an example, or the banning of talking about critical race theory in schools and things like that. I mean, they're using their power. They're doing what they were elected to do by the people that voted for them, essentially. So my loop around question to all of that, Kazique, is since public sentiment is more on the side of diversity, equity, inclusion, what can people do in their day-to-day lives to challenge the power structures that, like the Department of Justice or the Texas legislature? What can you actually do? Because it's my theory that people care, but caring doesn't make you an activist. This is kind of a question for both of you as activists, Virginia, lifelong activists, is what can people do the day-to-day, the person that, maybe it's a non-black person or just another white dude engineer at Google who agrees with you. What can they do to actually participate in fighting back?
Well, I'm a firm believer that activism it depends on the hat that you want to wear, because a lot of people will say, "Well, I don't like to go on marches," especially here in Texas. It's blazing up in here, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are like, "I ain't going out there that heat." And I'm like, you know what? Not everyone's made for the march. Not everyone. And there's a question about how effective marches are in the first place, right? Well, okay, you don't want to march? Cool. How do you support businesses of color or women-led organizations or nonprofits who are doing this work? Maybe it's where you spend your dollars. And I'm not talking about $5, $6. I'm talking about putting some really meaningful resources and encouraging your friends, because that's what rich people do. They don't just donate themselves; they get 20 of their friends together and say, "Hey, let's put our money together and put it towards this organization with no strings attached." It may be you on social media sharing articles. I mean, I find that really powerful because their network is seeing the articles or articles or videos or whatever it is to share information to counteract the misinformation and disinformation that's out there. And so there's multiple ways. The question for me is, if you want to do something, ask yourself, what do you want to do? And just find that one thing and really hammer in on it and dig into it. Because now because this is my life, I do it multiple ways. But for the average person, they're just not gonna have the capacity. That's okay. Find that one thing and just commit to it. And if that gets boring, you're tired of doing marches, go online. If you're tired of doing that, make a donation. If you're tired of doing that, I want to start my own organization. Whatever it is, do something and not be overwhelmed. And I know it's easy to do this. Don't get me wrong, because I've been there. You get overwhelmed by how weighty and heavy it all is. I mean, the sexism and racism and homophobia and just all of it's way too much. You're like, my little bit's not going to make a difference. And I promise you, your little bit does make a difference, because what you find out is that you find other people who are just as frustrated and outraged because of this. And you get with them, and now you got all these people coming together to create the change you're looking for, even if it happens just to be in your small little town. It's better to have that impact of those small group of people making a difference than doing nothing at all.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I used to say activist for me is not the one that goes to the march or, is necessarily the vocal person or the speaker of a cause. but is someone that cares about a cause and actively do something about it. That's the difference between scrolling on social media and complaining and maybe doing likes, but do something that matters to you, and that even if it's just one more thing, one small thing, is something that is meaningful and that will make a real contribution. Scrolling on the internet or complaining is not going to make a difference, but any of the actions that you describe, and I think that for the sake of ourselves too, I mean, just to feel that we're part of this planet and this society, I think is important, not just for the cause, not just for the people that are being affected directly, even if in the case it's not you, but I doubt it, that makes you feel more human when you are connected to a cause, when you believe in something and you do something to promote that belief and or to sustain that belief or to defend those rights or whatever it is that is your motivation. And there are so many things, as you said, we need to understand that we're strong in numbers. And so it's not about how strong is my contribution, how much of an impact can I make by myself. It's like, how many people are we out there showing others that it's possible to do something, and showing that they're not alone thinking this way, and take a stance. Actually, if you're gonna go online, make it public, make your stance public, say, I believe in this, I'm supporting this, because that will encourage other people to do the same. And saying that, there's some things that are more risky right now, but there are many things that will keep you safe and still make an impact. So it's a matter of just, finding the courage and finding your humanity to say, like, well, am I part of this or not?
Exactly.
Right.
I love what you
Yeah.
said, Virginia, because the piece that, even from a business perspective, would okay, yeah, my company, we do widgets, right? That's what we do. We make a lot of money making widgets. But I need to feel like that making widgets makes a difference in the world.
Right.
That it's actually contributing to the good. And so
Mm-hmm.
widgets, yeah, thank you for the $1 billion. But if we're actually making an impact in the way that you just described, that's really what counts, especially for this generation that's coming into the workforce, to the Gen
Yeah.
Zs and stuff like. Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
widgets, yeah, fine. AI, fine. But are we doing something good in the world? That's what they really care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, again, I'm much more limited in this, but I don't think you're an activist if you're not risking something. There's a big difference between having empathy or having an opinion, or even voting. Voting's not activism. Helping other people vote, that's activism. Making sure other people is safe to vote. But you got to risk something. And I try to embody that, like, in to me, that goes back to the activated white dude. I'm just trying to embody what I think other people should do that look like me. That's the main thing, that look like me, is risk something. If you actually, as Virginia said, if we're in this together, risk something.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
And that
do
will
you want to
show
wrap with the, yeah.
yourself that
Mhm.
that you matter, that it matters to you.
Yeah.
That's a way of saying, like, yes, I'm risking. And when we talk about risk right now, usually people, I mean, it's easy to think of the big risk because people are at risk. Their life is at risk, their security,
Hmm.
their freedom is at risk. Maybe you don't need to go that far. I mean, it's not for everybody, it's true. Maybe
Yeah.
you don't need to
Right.
go that far, but risking losing some friends,
Yeah.
between colon marks,
Or
losing
or
friends,
clients
or
or
creating,
clients. Hmm.
or clients, or creating some conflict within your family or your inner
Hmm.
circle, that's a risk. That's a
Yep.
risk. And is asking yourself, or being public, like going on social media and say, I support this cause, my business is going to support this cause, and
Right.
I'm participating this way, I'm making this donation, or I'm participating in this activity, will you join me? That is a risk, because it's your reputation, it's your status, is your name, is many things that you're playing with somehow, but that shows that it matters to you. And that's the only way that actually
Hmm.
you make a significant contribution, is when you do something that matters to you.
definitely.
Mm.
Love it, love it.
Okay, so the third question, and you were talking about reconnecting each other. I mean, how to we can slow down and find ways to connect with each other, because that will make us not just better humans, but also healthier and more happy and more effective and more productive, and all the benefits that comes with that, and a society also stronger. How would you describe the impact that you want to see based on your work
Mm.
in the future? How would you observe that impact?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because in the end, that's what's really the goal here, right? I'm trying to achieve. And so when I listen to the Surgeon General here in the States say that isolation and loneliness leads to all these really negative impacts, which is like basically heart disease and cancer, right? What
Mhm.
I want to see is the reduction of the negative health outcomes that we see people experiencing. Because I think when people are more engaged with one another, when they're participating in kinds of activities that make them feel more alive and they're feeling more trust and connection with other people, by default, it's hard to maintain all those negative outcomes. What I like to see is people have less stress in their life. They feel more joy in their life. They feel like they have people, because bad stuff is going to happen, right? But now I have a network of friends and community who can support me through those stressful circumstances. And so those are the kinds of really measurable things that I want to see, even in the work setting. When you see more employees who are engaged with their teams, with the organization, or they feel like the organization is looking out for them, their ability to stay, one, not just stay engaged, but to bring the kinds of innovation. Because what we saw during and after the pandemic until this day is the whole quiet quitting, right? Where people are just
Mhm.
doing the bare minimum. They're not giving all their good ideas. They know they could, but they're like, nah, I ain't doing that. And
Mhm.
so when people don't feel or feeling the way that we're talking about, they don't give them full sales because they're spending a lot of time trying to protect themselves. But if they can feel more vulnerable with the intention and good faith to connect in a real meaningful way to create the kind of creative and innovative spaces that we want so we can really be ourselves, man, I think you see people living longer. I think you see people reporting feeling happier, not just happier with their jobs, happier with the relationships. One of the biggest challenges for men who get divorced, I'm a divorcee myself, is because they are isolated and have no networks. And so what I want to see is divorced men who are out there connecting with whether it be other men or other people, so they're not feeling that loneliness that they're constantly having to
Mhm.
battle. And no one ever says it's okay to have that conversation. So those are
Mhm.
the kinds of really measurable, meaningful changes I want to see people experience, whether it be through the Djembe card deck or other things that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rate of suicidal attempts and success actually in men is way higher than in women, partly because men are known for isolating themselves and not building a community. I mean, women, especially white women, were kind of having the same behavior, but especially in the global north. But in general, women, we tend to have at least a small circle of family members or friends that are there to support us. Men is way harder to be vulnerable, to speak up, to open up about issues that matters, and the feeling of isolation and failure and disappointment in life and all that is way higher. So connection will actually impact those statistics for sure.
Well, I'll give you one example for myself personally. I have a group of mostly guys. There's also women. We have Friday happy hour every Friday. Usually around 5 o'clock. Depends on who wants to show up. We pick a different location every time, and we sit there and tell the same stupid stories, the same stupid jokes, do the same stupid stuff every day, but we show up. And not sometimes all of us, but some of us, but we do it on a regular basis. And it's not just the conversations we have during happy hour on Fridays, it's the phone calls that we have outside of that circle. It's the hey, checking in with folks. I haven't seen you in a while. What's been going on with you? It's hey, what's going on with your career? Oh, I think I might lose my job. I mean, it's all those conversations that happen during happy hour, but also outside of happy hour that make it's a wonderful experience. And I've been told many times by a number of folks that, this group of folks, y'all have saved my life more than once. Thank you so much. And
There
so
you
those
go.
are the kinds of things that I want people to be a part of and be connected to, whether it's in person, because I think people are dying for those in person, face to face experience, but even online. I'm not the biggest fan, but those things work as well, especially if you're feeling kind of stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to. I mean, I remember during the pandemic, I wanted to have a therapist, and there's not that many Black therapists in Austin, and so I actually connected with one in Austin, in Houston, and it made a world of difference for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are kind of the
Mm-hmm.
things I'm hoping people will do that's measurably kind of the criteria that I use, because I don't want to. I'll be honest, I don't want people to be just holding hands and and singing songs, and then in the end they're going back home feeling just as lonely as they did before. I need to see
Yeah.
some meaningful, measurable change in how they feel and how they function and how they connect with other people.
Yeah. Or being misery buddies too. Like, that's that's not healthy either. And I just, summing up what I heard from both of you, is just that the more connected we are, the harder we are to control. In the sense of, like, there's more of us than them, but not if we stay disconnected, not if we're not willing, especially as men, to express ourselves. And I love, Kazique, that your approach is to diversity, equity, inclusion is, you really hit all three. Sometimes with people that are in that space, they kind of hit the first one, hard. And the fact that your card deck and your discussions and these dinners and is about, it's about wholeness, and wholeness is love embodied. And the more whole you are, the harder it is to hate other people. And I love that you're just sort of this, like, giant big tent of each of the three letters. And so just, it's very inspiring. Thank you so much. So
I appreciate you saying that, because Justin, you don't know this about me, but there was a time I thought I wanted to be a minister. And I didn't want to be a minister because I didn't like the politics of the church that I was a part of. So that was strike number one. Strike number two is that I did like the idea that I wasn't able to connect with people who weren't Christian, that I had to somehow convert them to be part of
right.
the Christian faith
Yeah.
to build the relationship. I'm like, well, I don't want to be limited by that either. And so my ministry of sorts, if you want to call it that, that's probably a better
Yeah.
word, has been the work I've been doing. And it's creating these African centered circles to create the kind of experiences that we've been talking about for this time. And so, for me, it's a beautiful thing. I'm hoping those haters will get out of the way and allow me to make a living at the same time.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, we're linked to your stuff, to your website, your card deck, everything. And just sending you lots of, like, respect, but also, the world needs to know who you are. And I hope this little platform helps with that in some way. So thank you
Well, thank you.
for all you contributed today. And we're going to say bye to you and go to the second show. And so thanks so much.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Nice seeing you
Kazique.
both. Take care.
Uh, that was inspiring. It's always nice to hear, the more the merrier, really, people that believe in that kind of, in those values, and are doing something to bring those values and to promote those values in the world. I think that we don't have enough, for sure. We're not
Mm-hmm.
enough. There is one thing that I was thinking at the end of the conversation, that talking about community and how important it is to have a group of people that can be your supporting network, and that you can rely on them, and you break that isolation that we tend to have, especially with daily life in these
Mm-hmm.
times. But at the same time, I think is a call to attention, or to awareness, to not get stuck with the same group of people that you have been
Mm-hmm.
with for too long,
Mm-hmm.
without open yourself to new people. And this is where diversity comes from, into play, because it's important to have that intimacy and that level of connection and support and trust. That is important, but it should not be the only circle you have, because you can also stay in a circle that reinforce your ideas. You were saying, like, the
Yeah,
misery buddies.
misery buddies. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If and it happens with certain circles of people that are more conservative and they're really not understanding what is happening in the world. Is partly because they don't go out of that small circle that share the same views and the same perspective and just are reinforcing each other, and that brings some create some kind of atrophy of the
Mm-hmm.
brain, of the soul, of the the humanity of any person. So open yourself, even if you don't connect intimately, even if you don't build that super strong relationship with people that are different from you, making a challenge for you. I mean, put yourself that task of, I'm gonna meet somebody new, somebody that is different than me,
Yeah.
every so often, every week or at least twice a month. I talk to someone and listen to their perspective, even if it's just to keep my brain sharp, to
Mm-hmm.
help me understand the world in a more comprehensive way, more holistic way. Having multiple perspective is absolutely essential for the brain to keep growing and to not atrophy, but
Mm-hmm.
also for your soul and for your mind and for your heart to keep growing as well. So yes, have that circle of strong relationship and connections and intimacy and trust, but also keep your mind open to new perspective. That
Mm-hmm.
absolutely essential.
Yeah. I think what the conversation affirmed for me too, and is again, I'm very aware, especially here in Mexico City, as being a white man, and but in the U.S. too now, and that um, I always want to listen to people that have had a different experience than me. That would extend to, I've never been a coal miner, so I'd like to,
Mhm.
yeah, I want to know about that. There's elements of that transcend race and gender. But where I'm done, and what I'm done with, and this comes back to it. There's a philosopher named Karl Pepper, or Popper or Pepper, who said that talks about the tolerance of the intolerance of tolerance. That there's a certain point where you're too tolerant, and therefore it creates intolerant people in the world. And I find myself in a chapter of basically, like I said, direct confrontation to bullshit, to lies, and especially around Jesus's teachings, U.S. history, um, the systemic issues that people that are not white or male or straight face. And I don't fucking care about your story anymore if you still believe that shit. I'm done. Like, I don't, it's to me, I look at MAGA as an example of this. It's just a series of grievances that are mostly delusional grievances. Like some brown person is going to come to fucking, Ontario, Oregon and take your job, you know. No, that's not happening. Or that, that there's the crime in the cities, or that's not true either. Chicago and LA and other large cities are seeing, significantly lower crime rates. And it's just this sort of willful ignorance that is continually kind of the fuel or the fodder for the powerful people to keep doing this stupid shit. And sadly, most of it comes down to people that identify as Christians. And I just don't want to hear any more about why you think that gay people shouldn't be married or that slavery wasn't that bad. To me, there's something about that is so viscerally repulsive to me that I just want to fight you. And I've decided that's okay. Yeah, I don't mean like necessarily physical confrontation. I suppose if I had to, I would. But it's like, I don't want to sit and be like, well, tell me why you feel the way you do about black and brown people or queer people. You could fuck right off if that's what you believe. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I I think I'm glad that you brought that point of view or that opinion perspective about this, because when I talk about expanding your horizon and open your mind to listen to other people's experiences, I'm also talking from a selfish point of view, meaning that
Mm-hmm.
enrich your work with other people's experiences and perspective because it's good for you, because it will open your mind. That doesn't mean that it's not a punishment. You don't have to really go
Yeah.
to the extreme and listen to people that you really disagree with. Plus, we talk about tolerance in a way that is get confused with approval and acceptance, and it's not the same thing. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to approve, you don't have to agree with the other person to be able to listen to their perspective, and just ask yourself, what do I need to know about this? What is useful for me to know or to take away from this conversation? Is this expanding my views, or is this confirming my views? Is this, ratifying, or is that giving me better arguments? Whatever it is, you have to learn. You have to get something out of that conversation. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. It's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you approach people thinking that you can change their mind. Then it's a waste of time for sure. My father used to say something that, he used to have pearls of things that I remember since I was a kid. And one of the things he said once is that tolerance is not universal. He said there are some things that we should be tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. He said tolerance is being described as something universal, and actually tolerance is not something that we should embrace. But listen the rest.
Mm-hmm.
He said there are two kind of differences. The difference that keep people apart and polarize and against each other and fight each other and oppressing each other, those differences should not be tolerated, should be fought, should be
Mm-hmm.
dismantled. And then there are differences that enrich the world, that make the life more colorful, that brings, more more reasons to live, actually. Those differences should not be tolerated as well. It should be promoted. So
Mm-hmm.
tolerance is something that, unfortunately, is started as something that, well, how can we accept that other people are different than us without trying to change them? It went from that to the belief that tolerance is just apathy and not doing anything and just accepting what the other people are doing or saying out of respect, which is
Mm-hmm.
not the same thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought it up. I think that, yeah, we should not necessarily tolerate. We either promote the difference and reach out to them and
Mm-hmm.
try to get our life enriched by the difference around us, or we should fight the difference that are causes of discrimination, oppression, or violence of any
Yeah.
kind.
Right. And I also think that if something that you believe in requires other people to be harmed, you're the problem. And it's the despite the obvious issues with the era in which the Constitution was created, it's an inalienable right. It's part of natural law, and it extends to the U.S. Constitution in theory. Awesome, often, as I said, very clumsily, messily, and untimely. Is if there is no threat to you, then why would you use power to harm other people? So you show me, this is why I say moral clarity is the defining trait of our times related to leadership. Because leadership, you have some sort of power. And if you don't have moral clarity within that power, you're going to abuse the power on some level of the spectrum of abuse. You're just going to without moral clarity. And this is where I go back, though, to white people that participate in the oppression. I'll confront them all day long, but mostly who I'm confronting are the insulated, the people that are insulated. And they're like, well, I have black friends, that's that sort of joke. Or, oh, it can't be all that bad. Look at Michael Jordan or Oprah Winfrey or Dr. Dre or whatever. It's like, okay, you're missing the point, So, and it's that sort of insular, I don't, or like, especially as I said earlier, like that don't think I should talk about race or gender or sexual orientation or whatever in the workplace or in business. I'm gonna, if you if you don't like that, then that your own uncomfortableness is a sign that you should probably listen to what I'm saying. And to me, it's there's the intolerance of specific racist behavior and policies. We should fight back against that. But I also think there needs to be a level of intolerance towards the insulated and the apathetic too, is to challenge that as well. Because it's really more the insulated, the quiet Trump supporters, that don't necessarily have a MAGA flag or wear a red hat. They're far more of the problem than the people that are just openly and violently racist.
Yeah.
And so again, that's why I think those kind of conversations need to be challenged in the workplace in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is yes, apathy is what keeps the status quo in place. It's not the aggressors, let's say. It's not the people that, as you said, the spoken ones, that the ones
Hmm.
that are, they are creating, actually promoting change, promoting negative change, in my
Yeah.
view, like, is how to make this harder, how to make this more strict. They are trying to change things in their direction. But the apathy, the people that are apathic that way, are the ones that keep things exactly the way they are.
Right.
And for you to be apathetic, or at least, because that's, I mean, a projection, we don't know how they feel, but the fact that they don't do anything about it
Yeah.
is either they are really in the extreme side of oppression, meaning
Hmm.
that their life is conditioned to keep it quiet and stay quiet
Hmm.
and low profile and invisible, like many people are having to, they're forced to be right now. Or you're extremely privileged,
Hmm.
that you can afford
Yeah, to
not
be
to care that
insulated.
much.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean by
Exactly.
insulated. Is
And
it's a privilege thing. Yeah.
yeah, so if you're not in the group of your life depends on you being quiet and keeping a low profile, you probably have to review your privilege and decide what you're going to do about that.
Yeah. And I also hear people say like they don't, and I've been there. I didn't like the word privilege as in, I didn't like it, but now I understand it. Still don't really like it. I think it's things become we're this, and especially with what I do as a brand poet, is that words lose their meaning pretty quickly because of proliferation of content, for example. So but there's this sense of, I hear this sometimes where like, I'll see the identity politics, they created this. Like if there wasn't identity politics, then MAGA wouldn't have taken power. And it's like, that is some really weak ass analysis and lacking systemic awareness, especially related to the influence of Christian nationalism and white Christian supremacy. And it's that it goes back to, though, that if, and this is what I loved about our conversation with Kazique and several other people, Jim Fry in particular too, and Janet Stovall, is we have to infuse new language or update the language constantly, because people that are apathetic, insulated, looking for like a buffer, are going to say, "Well, I just don't like the way that sounds, so I'm not going to pay attention." An example is the classic. I think all lives matter. As an example. So, from a branding perspective, it is the responsibility of the people that are proponents, they say Black Lives Matter in this particular case, to challenge that, because they're using they're using language. The All Lives Matter people are using language to defer. So therefore, language has lost its effectiveness, and so we have to constantly infuse new language into the conversations that are around uncomfortable things. And I think that it's easy to just slip into like a shit throwing contest of people shit throwing their cliches back and forth at each other. It's like there's nothing happening there if
Yeah.
if you if that's the case. And I see it too with the sort of the progressive white liberal, what I sometimes call limousine liberals, like, they got money, everything works for them, and they're allies. They use that phrase, but they're very dismissive of like working class people, for example, of all races, frankly. And it goes back to what you said, is like you just need more friends or connections with people that haven't had your experience. I used to tell Logan and Caden, which is funny, I said this in the middle of being, part of that culture. But if you wake up and if you're surrounded by people that look like you and sound like you and think like you're either in a cult or you work for a major corporation. And that's still true today, except now it's dangerous. There's danger. It's dangerous to be in that kind of insulated environment.
Yeah.
So
for yourself and for everybody else.
That's right, exactly. And if you are insulated, and somebody's making money off of that too. Some podcaster, somebody. It's not. I think Kazique is right. People make money off of disconnection, but they make a lot more money off of isolation. Of saying, this is the tribe, and we're going to market to them. And
extremely easy to manipulate. Extremely easy to
right.
What is the word, to deceive.
Yes.
Extremely easy.
Yeah, and they tell you who you are, that sense of belonging and kind of the dark side of belonging. They tell you who you are, and then they sell you products to remind you who you are.
Yeah.
That's some dark shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get you in fear. I mean, they use fear so you never explore outside those limits.
Right.
Yeah. It's dangerous, people.
Yes, exactly.
Be careful what you consume.
Yeah.
I mean, that's relationship, conversation, media, news, readings, everything.
And being naive is, it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's not dangerous. Nobody's going to be hurt because you're naive, but they are going to be hurt if you are insulated, and that insulation gets weaponized, for sure. So anyway, that was fun.
See, a lot of work to do still.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you. For those of you that are listening, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Massive Change Show. Shameless plug for my new cohort that's launching quite soon, called F the Formula. It is for solo entrepreneurs and creatives who want to stop diluting themselves to fit the algorithm's formula. And as always, if you know of other people that might make a guest, please let us know. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you.